Hey everyone, you're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff
and Amy,
a podcast with tips to make your life easier.
Covering pop culture, parenting, travel, minimalism, and more.
Hey everybody, this is Jeff.
And this is Amy. This episode, we're going to go back to the roots of why we started this whole darn podcast thing.
I thought we did it so that we could spend some quality time together, honey.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But also it was to quench people's thirst for information. Hence the name InfoQuench.
InfoQuench. And you know what? It's not all, I guess it's all information, but mostly it's tips, right? Just the tips.
Just the tips. But I often wonder why about a lot of things. I love researching the crap out of everything. And I Google, why things are the way they are. And I want to share some information just on some everyday stuff, or maybe stuff you wondered about, or just to give you some little anecdotes and things you can share with other people. Conversational tidbits, if you will.
That's right. There's all kinds of information. I find that we as human beings, we're always at a loss sometimes for words. We're always at a loss sometimes for words. Does that make sense? Does that sentence make sense?
You filled that up with a lot of words.
I did. And so why not talk about our podcast and what we talk about on the podcast? Because we give you some incredible information, and we're not going to stop this one.
Oh, yeah. It's simply incredible. Simply incredible people.
That's right. What is the first? Did you ever wonder why?
Did you ever wonder why snooze buttons are 9 minutes?
Are they? Really? All snooze buttons are 9 minutes?
I've had the occasional alarm clock that was 7 minutes. For the most part, though, they're 9 minutes. And I'm like, why 9?
I have to admit, I rarely even get to use the snooze button. I'm awake before the snooze button goes off, guaranteed. But yet I still set it just in case.
Well, you work, dear. You do shift work, and that's But I think the vast majority of us do hit the snooze button on occasion.
Oh, well, geez, yeah.
Sometimes repeatedly. And sometimes we plan our sleep to say, I'm going to hit the snooze button.
Right.
Or bitten.
Button. You say bitten. I say button. Bitten. Button. Let's hit the
call
snooze
this
button.
whole thing off.
Let's hit the snooze button again.
But I sometimes you find yourself laying in bed trying to do the math, and you're like, if I hit the snooze button 2 times, that's 18 minutes. 3 times, that's 27 minutes. And then I'm like, why is it 9 minutes? Why do I have to do this crazy math? Why can't it just be 10 minutes?
Why don't you tell us? Why is it 9 minutes?
Why is it? Well, there's actually a few different theories. But 1956, General Electric Can
I make it just a quick little guess? I want to just guess.
Okay.
Is it because you don't quite enter REM sleep at the 9 minute mark?
That is one theory.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So some people feel that 10 minutes, if you went to the full 10 minutes, drowsy people would fall back into like a deep sleep. And that means that they would sort of wake up cranky again. They would fall into that deep REM sleep. So yeah, that was a good guess.
Huh. Well, I am just guessing. I didn't read your notes.
So people felt that the 9 minutes was sort of the sweet spot between, more time in bed and letting it get out of hand.
Yeah, because snooze buttons can get out of hand.
Yes. Yeah, particularly if they're across the room and you can't even reach them with your hand. Especially
when you mistakenly turn it off instead of hitting the snooze button.
Well, yes. I've been at the point sometimes where I'm so exhausted and so robotic about it that I can actually hit the snooze button and not even really be awake, just do it in my sleep.
I know. You have the perfect reach.
Range.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of sleep tips around trying to get yourself out of bed in the morning, and one of them is just to put the alarm clock out of reach so you can't hit the snooze button.
One thing that I never understood, I know we're not going to do the whole podcast on alarm clocks, but I never understood why people didn't make an alarm clock, or rather, I never understood why they make them so soothing. When it's like, bong, it makes you want to keep sleeping.
Well, they have different alarms you can choose from, but some of them are really like jarring.
Yeah. Well, that
like but you don't want to wake up like your house is on fire.
No, I don't want to wake up. That will put me in a bad mood, guaranteed, every day.
If it puts you if your heart's racing upon the sound of your alarm clock, it's probably not the best sound.
Your alarm clock wakes you up with obscenities. Get up, yeah, beep 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 beep.
Oh, good.
Well,
look at that. You bleeped us all out.
That would. I know we're not allowed to swear because of Apple. but we're both longshoremen. So anyway, what's the next one? What's the next? Did you ever wonder why?
Well, I'm still in the snooze button because I never really got through the.
Oh,
so 1956. Back in
1956.
I had to talk like I was born in 56.
Okay.
Actually, I don't think people in 56 sound like that.
Try the rest of it like you're
if you're
from
born from the 50s.
Try reading the rest of it like you're from 1956 because I love your accents.
No.
Come on.
No.
Okay, do it like an Australian then.
No.
Do it with a New York accent.
How about I just do it with my own Amy accent?
Just read it straight up.
And I'll save our listeners the pain of my awful massacre.
Straight up with
accents.
Amy. Let's go.
So, 1956, General Electric came out with an alarm clock, the Telechron snooze alarm, and it was 9 minutes. And a lot of people thought that the reason behind that was just alarm clocks did exist before without that snooze function, but they had like strange gears, and the gear teeth wouldn't line up to allow for exactly a 10-minute snooze.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm sure it does if you're like a clock engineer.
Right, okay.
Is there a name for that?
Well, like
a clockeneer?
By not exactly lining up, what is it? Clockeneer. Yeah. Or a clocksmith, honey.
So whatever. A clock. Or a clocksmith. Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
the gears wouldn't line up in these old time alarm clocks long before the current electronics of our new age.
The LCD sound system.
Yeah, the LCD sound system. So that's one theory as to why they were 9 minutes or not exactly 10 minutes. So, and then again, what you said, people thought, 10 minutes is a little too much. Other people thought you should just get that extra minute out of your day. So if people only slept for an extra 9 minutes, that extra minute would be more productive.
Oh, interesting. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm of that camp.
And so today's day and age, obviously gears are not an issue, but they say that they've kept that snooze alarm at 9 minutes just to sort of pay homage to the initial alarm clocks.
Makes sense, I guess. And 9 minutes is a pretty reasonable time to snooze after having a good sleep, I think that's a pretty good, you're gonna feel rested after that. If you get up right after 9 minutes.
Or 3 times that for 27 minutes.
How many times do you hit the snooze button?
It depends on the day.
Really?
Yeah.
If it's Friday, how many times do you hit the snooze button?
Well, you do a little negotiation in your head. You're like, what can I get away with not doing this morning?
Yeah.
And you try to calculate 9 minutes worth of things that you can get away with not doing.
Cross off, taking a shower, brushing your hair.
I try to get the basic hygiene in there, but I do try to get that basic hygiene in there. So you ever wonder how long you should wash your hands?
I think I never wondered it. No, I will be honest with you there. Like that's not something I ever wonder.
Really?
I'm not sitting around going, how long should I wash my
Okay. Well, now
hands
see, I
for?
worked in the hospital environment for a few years on contract, and I remember when you would go into the washrooms, there were signs posted specifically with how long you should wash your hands.
At most like employment places.
So I'm going to quiz you. How long should you wash your hands?
I think probably about 4 or 5 minutes.
No, oh my God.
Okay, 20.
Maybe if you're doing like heart surgery.
Okay, like a minute and a half.
No,
2 minutes.
actually not even that long.
3 minutes.
But that's great, honey. I'm
30
glad
seconds.
you're that thorough. 20 seconds is roughly the
20
recommendation.
seconds.
So both like the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization feel that 20...
I wash mine for 4 minutes every time.
20 seconds.
It's a lot of running
20
water.
seconds is adequate. Or if you don't have a clock handy, you can just sing happy birthday to yourself twice. That's roughly how long you should spend washing your hands.
Oh my goodness!
But do it in your head because otherwise everyone's just going to think.
Even in your head,
psychotic.
that's going to drive. That kind of stuff will drive you batty. Every time you wash your hands, you're singing "Happy Birthday." Happy birthday, like that's just craziness.
Well, it's a happy song. It puts you in a good mood.
I know there's a time thing. Why not just put an alarm clock in the? You do it for 9 minutes. Hit the snooze button.
9 minutes. I still can't believe you think people should be washing their hands for 4 or 5 minutes.
4 or 5 minutes,
You'd have
man.
no skin left.
You'd have no skin. That's for heart surgery.
Also, an interesting fact is that, according to the CDC and WHO, World WHO, WHO. No. No, the World Health Organization, WHO.
Right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah. The less entertaining of the two. Feel that soap is more important than temperature. Really isn't as much of a factor as just making sure you use soap.
So you could use
in terms
cold
of
water.
Infection control.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the soap is the most important component.
Yeah.
Ever wonder why traffic lights are the colors they are?
Does it have anything to do with color blindness? Does it have anything to do with certain people can't see certain colors?
Well, I'm sure that they don't choose colors that the colorblind people are less prone to being able to see. But traffic lights originally had a color scheme developed just as part of the railway industry in the early 19th century. So it's been around for a long time. I found this really funny so it used to be that white meant go.
Right.
Green was caution, and red was stop, as it is today.
Huh.
But what would happen is the filters would come off, so the little red filter would fall off the light. So all of a sudden, the stoplight was also white.
Oh, that makes sense.
So your go light was white, and the red filter would fall off the stoplight, so it would be white, and they have all these crashes.
Well, that makes sense. I never really thought of it as like filters, but now
they decided that the go needed its own filter too. So that's when they decided we're going to give the go light a filter. So go became green, red was still stop, and then they made the yellow the caution.
Huh. Well, how about that?
I know. I find that fascinating.
And I still run the yellow.
I love these people who are just solving problems. They're like, oh, that filter keeps falling off, and planes, trains, and automobiles are all crashing.
Let's just make a light bulb that has a color to it, and then that would just get rid of the filter. And that's what they did.
I know. I wonder. Well, no, they just put a filter on. They just changed the colors.
Nope. They use bulbs that have different colors.
All right. Jeff's just making stuff up.
I am. That's what I do when I don't know things.
It's not the info quench. It's like info drought.
Info drought. info crap. I don't give you crap info.
Did you ever wonder why?
No.
Why you get the sensation of butterflies in your stomach?
It's because I'm looking deep into your eyes, honey.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Every answer is correct when you say that.
Yes, it is. And some people may know this already. I knew a little bit about this, but it was interesting to know they actually call it there's a brain-gut axis.
Oh, so that's what they call it? That's the scientific term for it?
It is. It means that different emotions can cause like sensations and physical changes in your stomach because of the connection between your brain and your gut.
Huh.
So when you're like afraid or excited, your brain interprets it as stress, and it activates the old fight or flight, easy for me to say.
Flight or fight.
Fight or flight response.
Fight or flight. Say it.
I just did, didn't I?
I don't know. You said flight or flight.
Fight or flight?
What's the next one?
Fight or flight. So your body releases. Oh my gosh, you've completely thrown me off. I'm blaming this one on Jeff and not the Aperol.
I didn't do anything.
Your body releases adrenaline, and everything sort of gets redirected to other organs in this stress response. And because of the decreased blood flow to your gut, because it's not really an essential function during a high stress situation, you get the sensation of the butterflies in your stomach.
Wow.
Yeah, you sound super interested in that.
That's pretty interesting.
Do you even get butterflies in your stomach? You seem like the kind of person who doesn't.
Oh, jeez, what kind of comment is that?
Well, I just mean that you're...
Oh, that hurts. I know what a hurt heart feels like. That's for sure.
I just mean that you're so laid back that you don't really get stressed.
Yeah, but butterflies doesn't mean that you're stressed per se.
Well, a lot of times it happens, like if you're getting ready to go like on stage, a lot of times
you could have an
butterflies
overwhelming, life event happen and get butterflies.
What type of life event?
Well, I got little butterflies actually when our son did his last performance. When he did a live music performance, it was quite something to watch.
Oh yes, he's just finished up his Kinder Rock music class.
Yeah, he played the keyboards.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
Ever wonder why orange juice tastes like crap after you brush your teeth?
Probably has something to do with the toothpaste, is what my guess would be.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, good call. So, but it's actually the two different actions that the toothpaste does. So there's sodium lauryl sulfate, which is like one of the agents that's in your toothpaste, it dampens sweet receptors in your mouth. So it makes things taste less sweet. But the other thing it does is it destroys phospholipids, and that prevents bitter taste from being too strong. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
It destroys them?
So not only, yeah. So
like the Terminator?
Yeah, just like, yeah.
Wow. Remember I told you I'd kill you last? I lied.
So it not only works to make like the orange juice less sweet, it also amplifies bitterness in whatever you're tasting immediately after you brush your teeth. So that creates that horrible
I'll
taste.
bet you, though, that no matter what kind of juice you drank and then you brush your teeth directly after, it's gonna be bad. Or you brush your teeth first, right? And then drink the juice. This is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, regardless of what it is, what kind of juice
you gotta
it is.
do it a certain
Orange juice
order.
is one example. But yeah, it's just like, it makes it less sweet, and it also amplifies the bitterness because of whatever foaming agent.
That makes sense.
Well, the sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yeah.
See how easily I said that one?
Yeah. They're rolling off your tongue now.
Stop signs.
Yes, stop signs.
They're a very distinct size and shape, and that didn't just happen accidentally. Back in 1915 in Detroit, they started out as just a square sign, black letters on a white background. And there was like a series of events that took place. It's kind of cool because
Sounds like accidents to me. A series of events.
Series of events. No. Well, I'm sure there was accidents too, but there were likely some accidents. But in 1923, there was the Mississippi Valley Highway Association created a standard for all the road signs, and they decided that in their infinite wisdom, because that highway association was known for their infinite wisdom, that the more sides a sign had, the more urgent people would feel it was.
Wow, what does that say about a yield sign then?
I know. I found that odd. Yeah, because I thought about the yield sign too, but obviously a stop sign is more urgent.
Or do not
than
enter.
a yield.
That's just a circle. Like, you should know not to enter that. That's a circle with a line through it.
I know. Some people would say a circle has an infinite amount of sides.
Well, yeah, I guess. I think that would be the intertwined figure eight, though. That's the infinite, right?
Well, the symbol for infinity, yes.
That's right.
So an octagon was chosen for the stop sign. And colors were kind of still all over the place, but in 1954, they finally decided on red with white lettering, and that became the standard. I think, I know we've traveled in a lot of different countries, and they seem to follow the same standard when it comes to stop signs. So
universal.
We can't agree on a lot across this world, but we agree on what a stop sign should look like.
It's very important to stop. I'm glad that's an international, standard.
I found this really interesting, that buttons. Well, I knew that this was the case. Women's buttons are buttoned on a different side than the other. So the shirt's open on the opposite side of men's.
Right.
You're aware of this, right?
I am aware of this, but I have no clue as to why.
Okay.
This has never made any sense to me.
So the majority of people are right-handed. I know that's not the case with you.
No, I'm left-handed.
But a lot of women were dressed by servants, and they felt that it was easier when you're dressing yourself for the buttons to open towards your dominant hand. But women were dressed by servants, so the servant would be standing in front of them.
Yeah.
So the buttons would follow be in the opposite direction, because it would match the servant's dominant hand, which for the majority would be the right hand.
Right. You know what I always thought that was? The reason behind that was that, if the buttons are on the wrong side of the shirt, then this is not a male shirt. So I'll put it back onto the coat hanger, and
that's the only way I can tell is because of the buttons. And
then find the men's section. It's like that's what I like. I've always thought that's just why. Okay, all female shirts are on the opposite sides of the male, so that you know which gender is for which shirt. But that stuff's going out the window now. Well, I think which is great.
In today's day and age, they probably just. It's sort of the same with the alarm clocks, right? They're paying homage to what was done historically, but back then it was originally because of the servants.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would never have thought that, actually. It still doesn't make any sense to me, really. Dominant hand. You're going to get used to it no matter what. But I guess it's easier. It is easier with your dominant hand. You're right.
No, I mean, you wouldn't, because you're left-handed. You probably don't you'd be better off with women's shirts.
Yeah, no, I'm well, let's go get some right now then.
One of the other theories I read was that women mostly breastfed on their left side. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's a stretch.
That doesn't even make sense. Does that mean like they only breastfeed with their left breast? Because having nursed, that would not be...
Yeah, that
would create a lot of havoc.
Yes.
On your whole biology.
It really would.
If you're only using one breast to breastfeed. So anyways, I threw that theory out the window.
Throw it.
Fact check that bugger and yeah.
Busted.
I don't know if you've ever wondered for audible crosswalks. So if you're standing at a crosswalk and you actually hear a sound, and it's for people who obviously are blind and aren't able to tell when the sign is changing.
Right.
But I didn't realize this, but the sound is different if you're crossing in one direction versus another. So if you're standing,
I didn't know that.
If you're standing at a corner,
is on.
Well, so if you're standing at a corner, how do you know whether or not the crosswalk is lit up for the street that's going to your left or the street that's like straight in front of you?
My question is though, how does a blind person differentiate all that?
Because the sound is actually different.
The sound is different, but they've never been in that intersection before. They wouldn't know what sound to listen to.
Well, it's consistently, but it's but there's a different, so they know whether it's the right crossing or the left crossing that is
by
actually
the particular. What is the difference? Do you know? Do you know how it differentiates itself? The sound?
No, like you want me to tell you like the pitch
decibels? Is one like more higher pitched?
Oh, I don't know which is which, but that's obviously it's something that I think if you are not blind and you don't really have to pay as much attention to, you just you don't
zone
pick it
right
up,
out.
But I know it's something I'm going to pay attention to now. I'm a pedestrian. I walk to work.
I think every one of our listeners is going to pay attention to that now.
Yeah, next time you're at a crosswalk, listen and see. And well, you have to hear it in both directions to hear the difference between the two.
Yeah.
But they differentiate between the two so that those who are blind know which direction is currently lit up as a safe crossing.
Yep, that makes sense.
Did you ever wonder why we say God bless you when people sneeze?
It has some kind of religious connotation, does it not? Or isn't it the demons inside you, and every time you sneeze, you're getting them out, and people bless you for getting rid of the demons?
I've heard of the demon one before, but the one I came across that probably has a little bit maybe more scientific merit was around the plague. So during the 6th century, the Roman Empire had 2 of the deadliest plague pandemics that we've ever had in history. And so the plague
and the black plague.
Well, no, they actually those are later on. These are even older than that. The plague of Justinian.
Okay.
Must have been named after poor Justin.
Oh.
That was in 541 to 542 AD, and then the plague of 590, which is in 590 AD, aptly named. So a long time ago. But combined, they killed about 100 million people, which was half of Europe's population at the time.
100 million people?
100 million people killed by those two plagues.
People are, and rightfully so, going crazy about the measles. But, I mean, the measles would be pretty bad, too, if we didn't have any kind of immunization for it.
Well, yes. It's, yeah. Well, we don't want to get into that whole anti-vaxxer talk. We'll be all... Our podcast will be 3 hours long and be ranting. But sneezing was an early symptom of the plague. So it was believed that if people started sneezing, that they were in imminent danger of
dying
from the plague. So Pope Gregory I, also known as Gregory the Great, suggested people should say "God bless you" if somebody was sneezing, because he said that the person needed help from God. So say "God bless you," and God will help them, guard against.
And brevity turned it to "bless you."
Yes, exactly. And if you even like other languages, Germans say "Gesundheit," it means for health, or the French say "santé," which again for health. So just kind of following suit, but it kind of across the board, it's more wishing people good health. I
always thought that it may have been something that just broke the social awkwardness of a sneeze, because sometimes people are pretty a little shy about sneezing in public, and if you say something like, hey, I heard nice sneeze or whatever, like you're acknowledging that they sneezed rather than just like pretending that they didn't just blow snot all over the place, unless they got it in their elbow.
Yeah, good job on that sneezing.
Yeah. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
The next one was around birds on a wire. I didn't take notice of this, but apparently birds, when it's windy out, all face in the same direction when they're on a telephone wire or a power line.
I didn't know that either.
And there's two reasons. Well, their feathers are optimized for airflow in that direction, so they'll face into the wind. And also their body weight makes it, they're heavier in the front. So it just allows them to be more stable. So they'll all face into the wind on a power line. It's the same reason why seagulls, if they're in a group on the beach on a windy day, they'll all face into the wind as well.
For aerodynamics.
Yeah. If it's not too windy, they kind of just face randomly though.
I wouldn't want to be that, that seagull at the apex of the triangle though, because you're getting the brunt of the wind. Yes. And that's not fun. That's not fun as a seagull.
Someone's got to take it for the team.
Someone's got to do it. I hope they sub out, Hey, it's your turn.
I'm going to talk to you about teddy bears.
Teddy bears.
Why are they
we talked about this earlier. This is great.
Why are they called teddy bears?
Well, I know. So why don't we just tell our listeners so that they know?
We discussed whether it's called Roosevelt or Roosevelt.
It's Roosevelt.
I recently watched
even Trebek says Roosevelt on Jeopardy.
Does he?
Yes.
Well, the only reason I even question this, I've always said Roosevelt too, and I'll say that for the description of this why item, but I recently listened to a Netflix TED Talk. Brene Brown it's an amazing TED Talk that Brene Brown does on Netflix, but she said Roosevelt, and it really threw me off. I mean, Roosevelt. It's spelled that way. It has a double O.
Could that just be an accent? Does she have an accent?
Maybe. She's from Texas, but
Texas.
I don't know. I just felt like, I don't know. I thought that was a given that it was Roosevelt, but I was starting to question it. Anyway, Theodore Roosevelt, as you may be aware, was a former president of the United States, and he went on a hunting trip. He went on like this 3-day bear hunting trip, but he didn't shoot a bear.
Very, very quiet.
Apparently, everybody else hunted down bears, but Roosevelt. So they tied up a bear to a tree. I know this sounds horrific, but it has a happy ending.
Wait a minute, though. I
don't know how
put the brakes on. How did they end up? Like, can you imagine? I don't even think Leonardo DiCaprio could tie a bear to a tree.
It was probably a small bear.
Because
and maybe the bear was already. Well, I was to say maybe the bear was already
knows
dead,
his way
and
around
they tied
bears.
it up into a tree to make it look like it was alive.
That's just craziness.
Anyways, they wanted to make the president feel like he had shot a bear. But when he kind of came across this setup, he's like, this is unsportsmanlike. There's no way I can shoot the bear. And news got to the media, and the political cartoonist did a depiction of Teddy Roosevelt not shooting the bear.
And we will post that someplace on our social media so people can see it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's copyrighted or not. But anyways, it's a,
As long as we give credit, we're good.
So that became really well known across the United States. And then months later, there was like a little candy shop in Brooklyn, New York. And the owner asked permission from the president. He said, my wife is making these little bears, and we'd like to call them Teddy's Bears. And they were an instant success. They sold like hundreds of them. And then later on, a German-based company who did stuffed toy animals started calling their stuffed bear teddy bears. So that just became like history. They just
I wonder if every
teddy bears.
I wonder if every teddy bear we see now, if I'm gonna picture a bear, a real live bear tied to a tree, ready to be shot. That's pretty daunting.
Oh, well, then my work here is done.
How much did you learn today, people? Honestly, come on. We are given the goods, this podcast and all other podcasts.
I found that doing the research for this episode was really fascinating. There's I did learn some of the stuff I knew a little bit about, but the teddy bear one really was. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it was cool too, and I thought the whole podcast was fantastic.
Yeah, we're our own best supporters.
Let us know what you thought. Go to our social media and let us know. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to visit InfoQuench.com to subscribe and catch up on past episodes.
You can also check out InfoQuench on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Till next time.